right, we're here in our third episode, and we're with the man, Enzo Razon.
Thank you,
AKA
thank you.
For on Fire.
That's
also
right.
Also
yeah.
one of the founders of Tarzeer Pictures.
Yes,
Thanks for
yeah.
being on the pod, bro.
Thanks for having me. This is cool, man. Congratulations.
So to start off the pod, I just wanted to talk a little bit about one of my most memorable moments with you is back in the day, still in high school, we did Battle of the Bands together. You remember that?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We did what was it? Power and that Kanye Cudi song.
What was it called?
I can't stop missing you.
Yeah,
That one,
dude.
yeah.
When I used to play the drums.
You were drumming
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
And honestly, like when you guys asked me to go rap for you guys when we were gonna do the performance, I didn't even realize that you were a drummer. You still drumming now?
I wish I was still drumming. Like I like doing little rhythmic things, but I don't actually play the drum set anymore. Unfortunately,
Really?
yeah.
So like the last time you held drumsticks and like beat
Dude, it was
drums
like 2013.
Damn.
Yeah, I went off to college in the States, and obviously you can't bring a drum set. with you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The place I was going to didn't really have like drum sets around, so that's where I kind of lost the touch. I really do wish I kept it up. I got a little bit more into like production and synths and stuff since then, because I do really enjoy music, but I've been meaning to pick up the drums
That's
again.
interesting. So you dabble in some production. You do like sound
Just
design.
hobby thing. Like
Yeah, for
I mess around with Logic. I have
Is
like
that your main? You use Logic Pro?
dude GarageBand
GarageBand.
all
yeah.
the way? But it's quite similar.
I
Nowadays they're very
Logic
similar.
Pro is just like a slightly more equipped
Yeah.
GarageBand, really. GarageBand's the entry level thing that they want you to try
Yeah.
for Logic Pro, right?
Yeah. Some of the samples and stuff I get on Logic, and then I just export it to GarageBand.
Like the loops and stuff.
The drum loops are pretty good.
Yeah.
They're better. I think the next step for me, I really want to start making my own beats and stuff.
Dude, that'd be sick, honestly.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I've only started doing like when we did like when we first started like doing videos and stuff. I made some like scoring for the videos and things like that. So that's how it got started.
Oh, I see. So, I mean, when you were doing that, it's obviously not like beats, right? It's not necessarily like drums and everything is elaborate. It's like sometimes it's strings if it's like dramatic or
Yeah. And then I would just like literally it was like keyboard, like on the keyboard, like and then after a while, and I was like, it's all starting to sound the same. So then I started getting into the keyboard, like an actual synthesizer.
But do you know like notes and stuff?
No.
Okay, yeah,
But you know,
same.
you can make it with. I don't
Same.
even know how you say like appragator. How do you say that word?
I don't know.
Appragator. It makes everything sound good.
Right. Oh, arpeggiator.
Arpeggiate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally up until
Like
now, I've been calling it appragator.
That's good, dude. But so like, do you feel like music translates to your like visual arts?
I think so. Yeah. I've gotten a lot of
I
like.
mean, obviously in film.
Yeah. I
But-
got in a lot of like especially with like I guess some of my photography, I got a lot of ideas from just the way people listen to music, like what people consider good songs. Like for example, me and Gio, like who you know, my colleague in Tarzeer Pictures, are always talking about like I think the most successful images are the ones that you can hear. Because like what a medium can't do, if it does that in the viewer, that means it's a successful example of whatever that medium is, right? And I think the jumping off point for that idea was like music, because the best songs I think are the ones that make you see things,
Right.
So whatever is missing in the medium, if it induces that in the viewer or the consumer or whatever it is, that makes it a successful whatever it is of that thing.
I see.
So I guess that's like. Inspiration wise, that's what the jumping off point was from music.
That's pretty sick, dude. Like I get what you're saying. I mean, yeah, part of it also with music is like you have, people who are known for being really good storytellers where it's like really vivid, but the flow of the song is not being forced into the story. And like to see pictures and hear them, which I think I have, like I feel like I feel like it's really intimidated by photography. Like generally I can look at a photo and say, damn, that's a nice photo. But I don't know why I think it's nice or anything like that. So I feel like it's something I've always wanted to get into, but I'm a little intimidated by.
Do you take a lot of pictures with your phone and stuff like that?
No, I've never been like that. I actually just got this camera for this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, I bought this camera. I might as well take some photos,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I've been taking photos, and I just do like on auto mode. You know what I mean? Like whatever.
Yeah.
And they haven't turned out so great.
It's cool, man, because like now that there are all these like little cameras and stuff, it's one of those things like food and music. I think like everybody has an opinion about it now.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
it's
so
like
true.
really like everywhere.
That's
know?
so true.
I mean, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Especially I feel like food, man. Food has really become like a thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not, you don't just eat it, it's a thing. Like,
Yeah. Especially yeah, now when people are more interested in how things are made.
yeah.
Thankfully.
So I was reading this article that Isabel Martel wrote, right? I was just Googling you, trying to see some stuff. And you talk about your moleskin and like Benihana, who's this like
Oh my God. Yeah.
Wait, I don't know. This article's probably 2017.
2017. Yeah,
This
for
is when
sure.
you did your first exhibit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Children of the Corn.
Yes.
So like, talk to me about that Benihana and the moleskin.
Well, that Benihana thing was like this character, I guess, that I've been drawing since I was little. Have you seen like some of like the drawings that I do like with the little faces and things?
I saw Children of the Corn. I've never actually seen your
Yeah, the face thing started off from this character Benihana. I'll just make stories about it in like growing up in like notebooks and stuff.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, that's what Benihana was, man. Then when I first moved here, that show, the Children of the Corn that you're asking about, I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Moved back after college.
After living in the States for like 5-6 years.
Right.
Yeah. Moved back to Manila. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I decided I was gonna put on like a art show. Had no idea what I was doing back then. It was only like 2.5 years ago. Rented like this pop-up space on Jupiter and put the
Nice.
whole thing together myself.
Always a good spot.
Yeah, and unfortunately the building has since been demolished.
Oh.
Shout out to Open Space, RIP.
Nice.
But yeah, so I just wanted to see like what was out there, and I thought it would be a good way to learn about like the local photography, the local art, just the scenes that I had been completely honestly like too separate from, unfortunately, while I was away. I wasn't really keeping up with the growth or any of the scenes that were really healthy, it seemed, when I came back.
But while you were in the States, you were still really into art.
When I first got there, I was just only like thinking about making like movies and making films
Right.
and stuff.
That was your course, right?
Yeah, that's what I finished in that. But after a while, I got into photography, and then I just made like a drawing once when I was living in my sister's place in LA, and she posted it on her Instagram, and people were like commenting like positive stuff.
Right.
And I was
like
like,
they thought
oh,
it was good.
maybe I'll like continue doing this because I really enjoyed it. And you know, I like collaboration and all of that stuff, but sometimes it just takes so long, and you have to talk so much to so many people, and
Right.
communicate with your correspondence and with your voice and using this, and that's all movies are. It's just like a bunch of people playing together,
I see.
which I love. But to scratch that little itch, sometimes you have to do things by yourself.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this is a really good avenue for like to scratch that creative itch, get some output going, get it out to like some people to see, few people. And that was a really satisfying feeling. And I didn't realize that I could do that until I came across like photography and drawing.
So you obviously had to make a thesis. You probably made a short film for school, right?
Yeah.
And what was it about? What is it called?
Gosh, it's called this. Oh my God, what is it called? Oh my God. Oh, The Swamp of Brigale and Verity.
And we can't find that online.
You probably could.
Did you post it?
I
Vimeo
think
or
I went.
something?
I think I put it on Vimeo. I'm not sure if it's still there.
What's it called again?
It's
Sorry?
called The Swamp of Brigale and Verity.
Okay.
And it's about these two. It's set in the 16th century.
Okay.
It's a period piece in puritanical New England, and it's about these two Puritan girls named Brigale and Verity, and they escape their cottage to live a life of frolic and freedom in the wilderness of 16th century America.
Wow.
Basically, yeah.
So what was that experience like? I mean, first of all, doing a period film sounds like a really difficult thing to do because the outfits and the background and everything, you have to be...
I mean, I don't want to sound like hard-headed or anything, but I think because people were saying it was going to be difficult was one of the
why
reasons.
you wanted to keep going for
yeah,
it.
and I don't really like. I don't think I do that much. Like that as a reason to do things.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I felt like doing it, and I was living in Boston, which I really loved, and
Is that where your school was?
my school was in Boston, yeah,
Which
Boston,
school?
Emerson College,
Oh, okay.
Boston, Massachusetts, and I wanted to make like a love letter, I guess, to Boston. Yeah, and I rewatched it recently actually because I was showing like some of the people we work with, and
Happy with it?
not really, not to talk shit about all the people who helped me make it, but I like it's completely like so wacky, so wacky, no story at
Yeah.
all. Like it's like
I mean,
semi problematic some parts of it.
Right.
Now that I watch it again,
But like, you were a team of how many working on
it
that
was cool.
movie?
We were a crew of 25.
Wow.
So yeah, so
it
that's
was a pretty big production.
it was a big production, and I really wanted, before I left like film school, I wanted to do that whole like film school thing where it's like we all go out into the woods.
Yeah.
Like, the cabin part, there was a soundstage in our school, and the cabin part, like we built it out and like shot on a set and had all these actors, and so it was cool. It was just like nice like
So,
playtime.
The actors or the people that helped you make the movie, were they a part of basically were they a part of what the school? Or
Two of them were the two stars, Brigale and Verity, were both acting majors in the school.
okay.
There was their mother, who was this lovely lady who flew herself from New York
No way.
to be in it. Yeah, and
Did you pay her?
I didn't pay her. I didn't even buy the ticket,
What?
and she put herself up.
Damn.
Yeah, I
How
picked her
did
up
you
from the
find
airport.
her?
On Facebook, and then we auditioned her on Skype.
Wow.
Yeah, and I gave her all this like crazy like monologues in like this puritanical language that I was like, I'm gonna write this monologue and send it to you, and she read it out loud, and then yeah, she was really sweet. And I also wanted to. It was the first time like, because a lot of problems with student films. It's like if there's a detective, it's like your buddy who's 20 years old is gonna play the detective.
Yeah.
Or something, right? Like, or is there a mother? It's like some junior is like the mother or something, right? So I really want, if there was a 55-year-old character, I
You
really
really
wanted it to be played by like a
accurate.
55-year-old woman.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool. I haven't really done anything like that since then, so I was happy I got the chance to before leaving the States.
So you haven't really been doing video style
So
things,
doing a lot of video now with Tarzeer Pictures,
but not film.
but not like narratives, not like writing the
Mm-hmm.
scripts. It's more like either commercial projects or documentary projects or like corporate projects.
Right.
Basically. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. No,
So at least
I
you
love
still
it.
get to like get that itch of like videography or whatever.
I love it, dude. It's so much fun. Like the editing part is the best.
Really?
So that's for me the
Dude,
best
When I do my podcast, that's the part I hate the most.
is the editing.
And I do like a still, like a
Yeah,
setting,
yeah.
like,
It's the-
whatever.
yeah.
I just, what I do, I put it in, I stick a LUTs on it,
Yeah.
and then I have the Adobe Premiere
Uh-huh.
auto sharpen and whatever.
I didn't even know there was an auto sharpen.
Yeah, there's a button that says auto, so I just do it and then I
Uh-huh.
tweak
Oh,
it
good
from
to know.
where it goes off of. But yeah.
I mean, it's not that dissimilar what you're describing to what we do. I mean,
Really?
I'm being like facetious, but it was I think it's the funnest part. So either if it's a documentary or it's like a narrative thing, the editing
Yeah.
is still like you're still in the.
Oh
Adobe,
yeah,
you know?
for sure. And it's a lot more interesting when you're doing a lot of different scenes and
Yeah.
like, conversations.
Yeah,
and
I think
stuff.
everything is just gathering the stuff for the for the editor.
Right.
I think that's what it's all about.
So it's really nothing. It's not a documentary or a commercial or a movie until the editor puts it all together.
it's literally nothing.
It's just clips.
It's like shots, and a lot
Yeah.
of people when they're imagining, like stories and stuff, they don't even imagine it in different shots. I don't think. I don't think most people do that. So yeah, I mean the whole thing about like visual culture, it's all about the editing.
Right.
Like literally everything.
So I want to talk to you also about photography. I went on your website, onfire.org, right?
Yes.
You have some really nice photos.
Oh, thank you,
bro.
man.
And like, I think you also benefit from the fact that you're interested in traveling, so you really go to interesting places. I noticed like you had like a lot of different kinds of places that you were taking photos of.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I like that bull dude with his fucking ball.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was
That was in
really cool
Oklahoma,
to
I
see.
think.
But dude, all of those photos are like, they seem really intense. Do you like well, I don't know much about photography, but is the editing process like really heavy or?
Do you mean like so the editing is like the choose with photography it's a little bit different. I guess specifically speaking, editing is just like choosing which picture you're gonna use or which picture you're gonna like bring forward or post or whatever it is, and then like the grading part is like when you like are editing the
exactly
the look.
Like color grading and
yeah
stuff like
yeah
that.
exactly
Like,
yeah
is there a lot that goes into that?
It depends really. Most of the time it's pretty minimal, I'd say. But some like I don't know how to like do retouching or Photoshop or anything like
how
that.
do your photos turn out so like vibrant and like really pop? You know what I mean?
Thank
Because
you. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
do you do like
there's like
special-
in like technically speaking, you can just like bump up the clarity a little bit, and it makes it I think look more like real life, which is why I like to do it. And it's funny like the more it looks like a photo, the more real life it looks. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, that's basically it. It's just really the clarity.
Okay.
I used to do way more like fucking with it than I do now.
Really?
Yeah.
So you would like when you were starting out.
When I was starting taking pictures, I wouldn't do anything besides making it black and white. Like I was just obsessed with black and white. Even all my Instagram pictures before were black and white.
Yeah. It's a great go-to for like a dramatic like feel, right?
Yeah. But nowadays, just like the pictures I put on that website, I don't really like fool around with that much. In
So
my
how old
other
are
work,
those?
it's heavily photoshopped, heavily now.
But that's like different because you're doing it not for yourself anymore, right?
That's true. Yeah, the Fur and Fire stuff is just for fun.
It's
really.
almost like a hobby, like a passion.
I
right?
would say
Like-
so, but some of the images, it's just good practice basically.
Yeah.
Just to always be looking, and
That's
it's just
true.
good practice.
So like, what's the mindset there? What's your mindset into taking photo? Like, I'm gonna take a bunch of photos today, or whatever.
It makes just being around anything more fun, I would say. Like you would enter a room and you'd be like, oh, that might be nice. It just enhances literally everything. So that's why I really enjoy doing it. And it's always worth having a camera for me.
Nice.
Like every time, I just came back from a wedding in Siargao.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm going to leave my camera and I'm just going to relax. It's going to be a break from taking
Right,
pictures.
right.
And I was literally the least relaxed because I didn't have my...
You were like, you're like, oh, I could have taken a photo of
Yeah,
this or
and at
that
the moment
do
I'm like
everything.
kind of into like mangroves and stuff, thinking about mangroves a lot. And in front of us in our room where we were staying was the most beautiful mangrove.
So
I've
it's
ever
like
fucking
every
seen.
day just provoking you. Like,
Yeah. So before taking pictures, I would have been like, oh, there's a mangrove there. Now I'm like, amazing mangrove. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for it coming into my life for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So like, is there anything specific you're drawn to that you want to take photographs of, like people or like landscapes or?
With my, I don't know how to separate like in terms, but I'll just say like with the artwork, it's at the moment about people, and then in my just general passion photography area, it's a lot of plants and trees. The desert, I'm very inspired by the desert, because it's just another world, especially from where we grew up.
What we're used to.
So yeah, it's a combination. The project I'm currently working on now is about karaoke, so it's mostly about people.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
I
Karaoke. So you've been taking photos of like people doing it.
people, yeah.
Because that's like a dime a dozen here, right? Everybody does it.
Everybody does it. That's one of the reasons. And I was thinking like, why do people do it? Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
about karaoke do people love?
Mm-hmm.
And just researching it more, I thought it was really interesting because in the project there's a video part and then there's a photo part.
Okay.
The video part, I only wanted people to sing songs from the States
Yeah.
in English. And just literally just a setup similar to this where it's just like the camera and just them like singing in their houses. And I only wanted them to sing American songs because I thought it was kind of interesting. There's a machine invented in Japan, made in China, now in the Philippines, and they're singing a song
From
in
the
the
US,
States. So
yeah.
I thought, wow, this machine, it's like this confluence of everything.
Pull up some Carpenters, maybe some Stevie Wonder.
Exactly.
Like, they love
there are
that.
some songs that like literally 8 people chose to sing like a single song.
Really?
Yeah.
I imagine Sweet Child of Mine is somewhere there.
The two less lonely people in the world. I don't know the do you know that song?
Yeah, for sure.
Literally 8 people sang that. So yeah, and then that just goes back to what we were saying about I think a good picture is something that you can hear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you see someone going like
Yeah.
that, you're like, oh my god, I can hear what they're
Right,
saying.
right.
So yeah, so I was at the moment I'm focusing on karaoke in photo and in video, just in terms of the artwork.
So wait,
projects.
when you make projects like this is personal. This is not like.
This is separate from what we do with the business.
Yeah, of course.
With the company.
So like, where do you release this?
Well, I was lucky enough to show the beginning of the project. I was lucky enough to show it at Leon Gallery. I was in a group show earlier this year, I think in March.
Nice, including the video.
No, it was 2 landscape pictures with lyrics underneath.
Okay.
From I Wanna Dance With Somebody by Whitney
Okay, no,
Houston.
I get that. So it's sort of like what they see.
Yeah.
Because it's always like landscape or some random stuff.
Some random stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I was interested also in like the vicarious nature of singing karaoke. Like people feel like it's a very transportive state of mind, really.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
people are feeling like they're in a concert, or they're feeling like they're in another world, or they're literally feeling like I'm Bon Jovi or whatever it is. So I wanted to have real images that look like karaoke screens. As part of the project, so that like and
That's
that
actually really clever.
that
I
brought
like
in
that.
like a lot of the landscape photos I just had taken just randomly. I said, oh, this is a good way to use some of the back catalog, I guess. And then took 60 portraits of people singing songs, and then had a guy Photoshop them all into one big mass.
That's
so
sick.
in the picture, it's like 60 people all together singing karaoke.
Oh, okay.
I can show it to you after
Yeah, for sure. I'll link it in the thing as well. If you do have it online.
I don't think it's online.
Oh, okay.
It should be. I need to take better care of that kind of stuff.
So talk to me about Fur on Fire. Where'd you come up with that name?
Fur on Fire was something I came up with in middle school.
Wow. A lot of these things actually have come from your youth.
Yes, thankfully. Especially moving back to Manila, I was thinking about that a lot, about the purity of the childhood.
Yeah.
What was your question again?
Where'd you come?
Oh yeah, the Fur and Fire.
Yeah.
I don't really remember. It was just a group of us in like 8th grade that came up with like Fur and Fire, and it just stuck.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff that I was working on was stuff that I was, like been doing since I was a little kid. And that's played into the Children of the Corn project.
Right.
Super big.
From the outside looking in, it seems like you're not super particular or concerned about like your personal brand. It seems like you're just kind of like let it come.
Not that much.
Yeah.
The Fur and Fire name was just a way for me to organize output.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really for like people to be like, oh, it's a fur
Yeah.
or whatever it was. It was just like
Right.
for the Tarzeer Pictures stuff, it can be Enzo, and then for my own stuff, it could be like Fur and Fire. So sometimes and then there's another pseudonym,
Which is
I mean, at the risk of sounding a little pretentious, it's called Pablo Dexla,
okay.
and it's just a cheeky thing. Like whenever I want to make work that we show, in our own gallery. I don't want it to be like Enzo Razon. It's like in our gallery.
I see.
So yeah, that's a little.
So if you guys ever see that, he's just flexing his own shit. I'm just kidding.
So yeah, it's just it's not like a thing branding thing or anything.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like a way to organize things for myself.
For sure. That's pretty cool, dude. And then so obviously you got into film before, I guess during high school, because that's what you went to Emerson for.
So when I was a kid, like 7 years old,
You were taking videos already.
my
back
mom
then.
was liked making videos with us. Like we'd have like my cousin gets murdered and all these stuff.
Oh, really? So you
Yeah.
would act?
We would act. My mom would edit on like iMovie 03. Our first one was called Bonsoir,
Okay.
and it was like me, like all of our cousins. We were literally little kids playing like policemen and women, and like there was a
Did you have
I was a
costumes
butler,
and stuff?
dude,
Like-
costumes, and I mean like our
Damn.
parents' clothes with the costumes.
Yeah, but still, that's
but
pretty
I was the
elaborate.
butler on that one, and then my mom would edit it. And I was like, it's like magic. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And she'd put music and credits and bloopers and.
That's so
There's.
good.
I remember one time she even came to our school and like showed everybody.
No way.
Yeah, And there were so many bloopers. Everyone was like, "We already saw this part." Like, so ever since I was a little kid, that's what I wanted to
Right.
do. Yeah.
So immediately then you knew that was a passion of yours.
Yeah.
So like when you came back to Manila after finishing everything, being there in the States for 5-6 years, like you're saying, your intention was to get into the arts.
Yes, for sure.
So you weren't gonna just do whatever job.
100%. No, 100%. I wanted to do creative work for sure.
Right.
And I knew that since I was a little kid. That's why when obviously inevitably and quite fairly, I get asked about questions regarding my background and privilege and all of that stuff. I completely understand all of that.
Right.
But just for myself, I always think back to I wanted to do this since I was 7 years old, before I even knew about the world.
Yeah.
Anything.
Right.
I was like, I wanted to do this. So it's something
It's not like you're 7, like, oh no, my dad's doing okay. So if this doesn't work out, I got a backup.
I didn't even know about any of that stuff.
No, exactly.
I knew that I wanted to do this. So even, yeah. So I do think about that sometimes. Like, yeah.
Either way, it was always gonna be the move for you.
Yeah. And I honestly do very much believe that I have no choice. I do believe that.
Yeah. That's great, dude. So you come back. How soon after you arriving in Manila do you start Tarsier with Dinesh and Gio?
Let's see. We came back in October. They were still living in the States.
So they were still there.
They were still there. Dinesh was working at a company in New York doing production.
Nice.
Place called Matt Projects.
Okay.
And Gio was in banking.
Amazing.
So Gio has a crazy 180 kind of story.
Yeah.
And they were still living in the States. I had just come back, didn't know what I wanted to do yet. Did that show, just through that show. Dinesh moved back shortly after I did, actually. Yeah.
Pretty soon after.
So he was helping me out with that stuff. Because I took 4 months to put everything together, I think. And towards the end, he was really helping me out. And that's when I was like, we work pretty well together. We've collaborated a lot. Dinesh also went to Emerson. So why don't we try to put something together ourselves? Right. I was also kind of, and I'm not really sure why, I didn't want to work for anybody.
Of course.
Which I could, it's, at the time I was very, very confident. The downside to being your own boss out of the gate is that you don't really learn from anybody.
Exactly. I know exactly what you're saying.
You don't have those mentor figures. You don't really learn from anyone, especially not having been a professional in Manila.
It's sort of like when people who live here who have family businesses, they're like, oh no, I'm gonna work for a big corporation first because I kind of want to learn the ropes before I get into this and see how it's done here specifically. Right?
Yeah. In hindsight, I now think that it might have been good maybe to hit up a few spots beforehand. But what can you do? That's the past.
Yeah. As long as you're doing okay
so yeah,
now.
I would say, it's the only downside really. So yeah, we were very keen on starting our thing together and growing something really grassroots from the start. And then I was just talking to Gio. He had just moved back, and he was having a dissonant moment as well. What am I? What am I going to do? Am I going to do arts, or am I going to continue with the finance banking world?
Right.
So I was like, why don't you hop on this thing with me and Dinesh, and we'll just see what happens. And that was that's how it started. So to answer your question about how long it was probably about half a year from moving back, and then when we
that's pretty quick,
together.
Honestly.
It was pretty quick.
If you think about it.
It was pretty quick.
That's very fast. With Gio, when he was in his banking job in New York, he was already passionate about photography and stuff. He
was one of those guys that had an eye-opening experience with taking a creative class in school.
Right.
And American liberal arts colleges, you'll take a film class or whatever.
Right.
So that's what happened. And then he started picking up the camera, and I was already talking to him about photography because I had gotten into it earlier. And I was like, dude, you're really just some bomb ass.
He's got an eye for it.
Supernatural eye. And so that's how things got rolling with Gio.
So you guys come together. You say you're gonna make Tarsier, right? Tarsier. What's the plan? What do you want it to be?
we were very, what's the word? Very like altruistic in the beginning. We were like, we're gonna make documentary films.
Right.
You know, we're gonna be truth tellers. And every once in a while, we do get a project that's like that. That's like, you know, making truth claims and exploration and
Right.
like telling really like, you know, a heart of hearts kind of like story. But after a while, you know, we were like, not every project is like this.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
like most projects are not going to be like this. There's messaging involved. There's these specific things that brands want to communicate. So you have to really edit and push certain things and, you know, exaggerate or emphasize certain things. It's not going to be like,
Right.
you know,
So you wanted basically everything that you guys did to be sort of a passion project, something you really had sort of stake in or believed in. Or,
yeah, and not everything can be like the passion project because
Yeah.
then there wouldn't even be a word for passion project if every
Exactly,
project was
it
a
would just
passion
be
It would
project.
just be the word project.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So that was like a good learning. And again, it's just like the way like I was saying earlier, when you take a photography, it like makes you look at things a certain way. Once we started grasping the fact that there was messaging and communicating specific things that people wanted involved in what we were going to do, then I think that's when we really were like, okay, now we kind of know how to approach things.
Exactly, and it's sort of its own challenge as well, right? Like, you have to figure out a way to make it creative and beautiful and like artistic, but be something that they want that's very straight, maybe. In their
Exactly,
message or
dude.
something.
Exactly. I'm very grateful for my coworkers for helping me always
Understand.
remind me and understand about that, because I mean I would be like, this is not art, it needs to be, you know.
Right.
And I think that the way to do it in a professional, like normal way is, sure, not everything you're gonna make is a work of art,
Right.
but you use your artistry in order for things to be as visually pleasing
Yes.
or as effective or as efficient as possible. That's where the art of this kind of stuff comes in, you know. It's not Lawrence of Arabia, but it is fun, like seeing, oh, when you do this, it's like the viewer is gonna understand this, and if
Yes.
you edit it this way, or like before, I would be against, like, let's say you're making a. Let me use an example that doesn't pertain to anything, so nobody can connect the dots.
Right,
Let's see, like,
right.
If you're doing a video about, I don't know, Potato Corner. Shout out to Potato
I love
Corner.
Potato Corner, honestly. I guess.
Dream Potato Corner.
Yeah.
If you're doing a project about Potato Corner, let's say in 2017, if we had shots of people in the store and there was a kid crying, I'd be like, we have to put the kid crying. There was
Right,
we were
right.
there. He was there. He was crying. We have to put it there. Right? And then obviously Potato Corner would be like, don't put the kid crying.
Yeah.
And I would have like a hissy fit. Right?
Right.
Now I'm like, you know, it's like if we get everyone the shots of them smiling, it's gonna look like Potato Corner is the happiest place on earth.
Of course.
And that's fine. Like that is, so the artistry now is like, let's get the most pleasing looking shots of people smiling at Potato Corner, and the thing will be everybody's happy at Potato Corner.
Right.
And everybody is happy. You know what I mean?
But are there like specifically corporate gigs that you get where they kind of let you be a little more artistic in the sense that with the crying or like maybe not
Yeah.
everything is positive?
Yeah,
stuff
no.
like that?
What we've coming now to realize is when it's internally facing stuff, like if it's like brand X and only people who work at brand X are gonna watch the video,
I
they give you
see.
so much more freedom. They
Oh,
give
so
a-
you get gigs like that where it's not necessarily commercial or advertising or anything like that.
Yeah, it's more like internal facing stuff. We've found that those are more of the freedom kind of things.
That's interesting.
where they make you do like tricky thing, you know, like
Yeah.
oh, the whole thing is gonna be filmed upside down or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean that's an extreme.
Yeah,
example,
of course, but something like that.
but like stuff like that. It's ironically when it's only the corporation gonna watch it, it's more experimental.
Yeah.
which is a surprise, and that's only something.
I
we've-
can understand that. Though.
yeah. That's why I'm saying like when you know you kind of learn about the messaging aspects of it, or you have to remind yourself about the messaging aspects of that kind of stuff. It just makes it a more pleasing
Right.
experience.
So I want to go a little back, a little, rewind a bit. And when you're starting out I'm sure like the gigs, you're not as well known as you guys are now. So like the gigs might be a little scarce. What was the hardest part about like, hitting the ground running, starting to like really build momentum as a company?
That's a good question. I mean, very personally speaking, I was hesitant at first to like do projects with family members or like titas and things like that.
Right.
Like I was hesitant about that. Again, that was coming from our naivety. It was coming from like our altruism, and it was coming from kind of the wanting to look a certain way or have a certain vibe, you know. So I was hesitant at first, but then I just had to open my eyes and be realistic about the realities of some situations.
Because like networking here is almost like half the battle, man. Like a lot of what you're gonna be doing will jump off of who you know and how they can either avail of your service or help you become known.
So I guess that in the beginning, so once I accepted that was okay to do, then that kind of lubed up the beginnings for us.
Okay, so you got some reps. You got to deal with like companies with sort of lower stakes because they were like titas and stuff, and then
it would actually feel higher stake if it was someone.
Oh, really?
Oh, for sure. For sure. It's like Enzo is taking film. And then when I was like, God, we have to deliver like something amazing here, or they're gonna be like, well, he's okay or whatever. Like just some like anxiety, ego stuff.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah.
That's a good mindset though.
Yeah, and it's like at the end of the day, if the quality of what we're delivering is good, then it's the quality of what we're delivering is good.
Yeah, exactly. Like at the end of the day, if you gave them some garbage, they wouldn't be going to their tita friends and saying, you should really get these guys.
No, I know exactly. Yeah, and it was actually very refreshing to see that even regardless of the connection or whatever it was, people would be straight up.
Yeah.
They were like, this is what kind of
want.
crazy.
Right.
This is not, yeah. So that was very refreshing.
Well,
actually.
it was also their businesses at stake, right?
Exactly.
So they had to be pretty firm
and
with
it
you.
also like made us it made me less nervous about talking creatively about my ideas amongst ourselves and in our group, and as well to people. Yeah, it's all about keeping the ego in check, I guess.
Of course.
Yeah.
Especially in like a business like that, man.
Sorry, my phone's vibrating.
Yo, it's okay, no worries. So you guys do like commercials. You do like
most of it is for social media.
Okay.
We've done a few things that were I don't think it's been published yet, but
so like what's an example of one that you've done for social media?
Let's see.
Maybe recently or
we do and this is a good example because it also speaks about like working with family. My sister and her group do like the unknown events.
Yeah.
You've gone to a few shows, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Were you guys at the Breakbot?
Yeah, we were.
Okay. Like you saw us then, like we were filming.
Yeah,
there.
I saw you filming, so I definitely knew you.
Yeah, so it was, that's another one that's like, when we first started out, we were like, we're never going to do event coverage. And now most people a lot of people know us for doing like the few unknown. We've done I think 4.
So what do you do? Like a highlight video?
It's basically just like event capture.
Okay,
but,
yeah.
in a more refreshing,
artistic.
Of
course. You gotta
trying
give
to just
some
elevate
spice,
it,
right?
a little spice rack. So yeah, that was our most recently published project. I think was the Shergao video for Unknown.
Oh right. TJ was telling me about this because he also works. He works for Unknown.
Yeah. He's in the video. Yeah.
Oh nice.
Yeah.
So yeah. Like So that's what you were doing there.
Yeah. So So that goes. I think that just speaks to like a bunch of stuff we've been talking about.
That's pretty cool. So you do those. You do like, I know you do exhibits. I went to one of your events. You did the Gay Pride event.
Yes.
With what embassy was that?
It was with the Austrian embassy.
Austrian embassy. That's super interesting. So they just came to you. They came to you guys.
Yeah, that one was. We had just finished the show.
Okay.
And just to give you some background on like the kind of the table of how we do the shows, we don't do many because we like producing them from the ground up, including fronting. I guess fronting is the proper word. Fronting, the printing, and the framing. So the photographers we work with don't have to spend necessarily on the printing and the framing, because we like to
Okay.
do that ourselves. One,
Because you're
just
particular about the
one, it
printing
comes
and
out
the
of the
framing.
particular thing.
Yeah.
Just what we, I guess, what we like to see.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of the ways that we can just be more of a contributive factor
Right.
in the working lives of the photographers that we've,
course, because,
we've
like,
been lucky enough to work with.
When you go on your website, part of it is like you guys. One of the emphasis of Tarsier seems to be like that you want to really empower and like feature and like expose these local artists that you believe are good at what
Yeah,
they
I mean,
do.
it really just comes down to Jordan Peele has like this nice little thing about Get Out, about like just making the movie that you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about like making the shows that we want to attend,
Right.
and we just have the ability to do them now, but only a few times a year because of that.
Right.
And we like repainting the walls and making a whole thing, and it's like fun and whatever. So we had just finished a show called Here,
Right.
and producing the zines called There.
Yeah.
And then the Mello. Do you know Mello?
No.
Mello had a project that she wanted to do.
Who is she?
She's like she has like this cultural events person,
Okay.
and works to have like these activations, and she's very, very active with like the Soji equality conversation and LGBTQ rights here in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
So she had this idea that she wanted to have like a week of events during Pride.
Pride Week.
And I think she met in a party somewhere the ambassador, the Austrian ambassador, Ambassador Bita. And they were like jamming on this idea, and then they came to us to have the photography aspect of it.
Right.
And it was pretty. I thought it was pretty cool, man. It was like embassy in the Philippines doing an event with us, an event in 2020, Elephant Party,
Which is where some of the photographs were taken.
which
right?
is from where Jack's pictures were taken. Yeah,
Right.
and they also did a film screening. So it's like not many embassies would like get down with that kind of
That's
stuff.
pretty,
you know?
yeah.
Like Elephant Party. So yeah, and then we it's something that all of us feel really strongly about. So we thought it would be a good opportunity. The timeline was quite short for us.
So how do you find the artists?
We find a lot of them on Instagram for sure.
But like how? You
Just like
search?
this. Yeah. That's why I kind of miss, like, you know how Instagram, like, literally until last week, you'd see who the people were liking that you were
Right.
following.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, so I like this person's work. Who do they like?
Oh, I
You know,
see.
or like we would go to one photographer, dude. It literally started out. Shout out to Ralph Mendel. I love Ralph. A lot of the ball got going on the shows because we were like looking at profiles like Ralph's and seeing who was following Ralph.
I see.
And then
so
that's like
interesting.
literally when we were putting together our first show, we would be doing stuff like that. And to this day, like in the traffic on the way here, I was doing stuff like that.
Okay. So you're constantly looking for new artists, new types
and
of work.
and then that one, because it was a kind of survey show and we were making really big claims about like even just saying this is a show about like the visual representation of queer culture in the Philippines, it's too much. That's crazy.
It is.
So
It's a
we
lot,
really
man.
had to work on that one to make sure that we had established artists, people who would like that people knew, but also like people who people weren't as familiar with.
Yeah. And what I liked about it personally was when I went through like the gallery, you saw some really realistic things that you've encountered in real life of people being homophobic or homophobic culture here, and then some things that were like, you may never see in like the
and
gay culture.
it was we found, and then and the nice thing was we learned a lot as well. Like those are the nice things. That the shows are, we don't do shows because we're experts on the subject. It's more that we end up like learning way more than we thought. Like,
Right.
We didn't even know what we didn't know. You know what I mean? Especially with that one, it was very, very nice learning experience, and had some really nice conversations about it when we were putting it together, and came to like a lot of realizations that photography intrinsically is very instrumental in the history of queer culture,
Yes.
and the empowerment of what a photograph can represent. That was very, very much at the fore with that subject matter.
Right.
So that was really, really fun getting to know a little bit more about that. I think we're gonna do it every year.
That's sick. Dude.
I think
That's
we'll
great
do
to
it.
hear.
We'll try to do it every year because it's literally the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg that we were touching upon there.
Right.
And again, there's still so much to learn and explore.
Mm-hmm. So you guys do exhibits like that. Obviously, you work with corporate brands and stuff to do like photo
Yes.
shoots and like
Yes.
videos and stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
But you guys also have some talks, right? I've seen you guys
We
offer.
for each of the exhibits, starting with our second show last September,
Mm-hmm.
we want to also have the programming of the photographers that we're exhibiting have presentations.
So it's sort of like going to a book signing.
It's kind of like that, yeah. Just so that one, it's good for, and speaking as I guess like as a practicing artist
Right.
myself, it's really good to do things like this where you're communicating, you're talking about things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just from the other side of it, as like the exhibition side, it's very exciting when you see a photographer, an artist that has a voice in their pictures, but also like a literal voice, like they can use their speaking
Right. So you actually hear them
communicate.
talk.
Yeah.
And like.
So that's to provide a platform, I guess, for photographers to practice that is exciting. And it's cool. Like then like people can just come and nerd out on photography
Yeah.
at nighttime. We serve Encanto.
Especially like, yeah, Encanto's good.
Encanto.
What's it called? Especially like, I feel like, if you show up to that and you're not necessarily a photographer or super well versed in art, helping get the perspective of a photographer leads you into what they're thinking or the approach, or when you're actually looking at the photos instead of just
Yes.
looking at it plainly and thinking, oh, that's a nice picture.
Exactly. And the best examples of the talk so far are the ones where the artists aren't necessarily even talking about photography.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like, oh, and here's a close up, and here's the wide and the medium. It's the subject matter is what their presentations are
Right.
about. You know, it's like if some Jilson is a really good example of this. Jilson too. He is takes a lot of pictures about the city, and he uses a lot of the vocabulary of a nature landscape photographer, but about the metro, like the urban landscape and things like this, right? So he was talking a lot about how Manila is like an organism, and that his pictures are, he takes them now, but they're really for people 60 years from now to get tripped out about what Manila used to look like, you know?
Right.
So the talks are the best talks, I should say. The most successful examples of the talks are ones where they're talking about more about the subject matter
That's
than
pretty
about the
cool.
pictures.
So, off of that, how do you figure out, okay, we're going to do an event or exhibit on this, and these are the artists we want to feature? Like, how do you determine who and what you're going to feature?
When we were first starting, we were literally first starting. Like, we had no experience in curating or exhibition making.
Of course.
Or it was literally going back to the thing, like, let's just make a show that we would have liked if we had gone to it. Just the difference is that we have to make it.
Yeah.
You know? So that was a guiding principle. And for the first 3 shows, so the first one was Brado, the second one was called Swoon, and the third one was There and Here. Those were like ones about, each one was touching upon like a fundamental thing about the medium of photography itself.
Okay.
For example, the 3 big ones I would say are memory and time. Obviously, just a snapshot in time, right? Intimacy between the photographer and the person who's in the picture or the subject, and kind of exploring a place. Those are the 3 things that photography is very, very good at doing.
Okay.
And because they're the fundamentals of the medium itself, it's something that all photographers are already thinking and making work about, inevitably.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like how inevitably rap music is going to be about self-expression and legacy and things like that. There's
legacy, success, struggle, those are all
those
like
are the things
intertwined in hip-hop.
right? So no matter what, even if you might be like talking about champagne or whatever, it's still going to be about those certain things.
Exactly.
Meaning there was a lot to pull from because everybody has work about those stuff.
I see.
So that's how we structured the first ones. The first one was about, memory and time and being frozen, like literally.
Right.
So that's how we set out. And then the second one was like, oh, it's about, like I said, like the intimacy between the subject and the photographer. So yeah, so all the while it was us also kind of teaching ourselves how to make
Right.
exhibitions.
I mean, you learn
Because
as
they
you
were
go.
about the most fundamental aspects of the medium that we were showing.
Yeah. So off of that, like in terms of the artists, I guess it's just when you look at their work, it's what you like, right? Like plainly, that's how you pick.
I guess so, yeah. Especially in the beginning. Luckily, the in the beginning when it was just the three of us, excuse me, we all have kind of different tastes and stuff.
I guess that's definitely helpful.
Especially in terms of the execution.
Okay.
Maybe subject matter wise, we kind of like trip out on the same stuff.
Uh-huh.
But the execution, it's very different. So we were very much just trusting our own.
So what is it, like one of each, or you all have to agree on like certain artists, or?
I would. It's fair to say that we would all have to agree,
Okay.
and that's where like all the talking comes in. I mean, there was.
That's
It's
probably a better way to do it rather than like, okay, we all pick one artist, then like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then there's no like unifying.
And there are, and it sometimes it starts from a place where it's like it would be really cool to collaborate with this person. What is their work about, and can that be can we just like go from there?
Yeah.
And we've only done group shows so far. We've never actually done a solo show yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. There's one coming up. Hopefully.
Nice.
But yeah, so it really came from that, like just like if we all liked it.
And about artists, another thing that I found interesting was, I mean, initially when I heard that you, Gio, Dinesh were starting something, I figured it was more like a collective thing, where it's like you pushing your own art. And I find it interesting that you guys have done so many events and stuff. And obviously when you do corporate gigs and like photo shoots and stuff, you're obviously creating the content yourself. But when you do shows, you're not like, and like you said, you have your alter ego for it as well. You're not particular about pushing your own material.
Not. So maybe that will change. It'll probably change.
You think?
Like I sometimes think, would it be so bad if like I literally exhibited in a gallery? Sometimes I think that probably it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I haven't thought about it that much.
But like that's one way I found it interesting, because it's not like, okay, like let's say like I started a rap group, that's what we would be pushing our music. It's kind of different. You're really like a production company, right? Or like,
yeah, there's different hats, and some at the moment, just for now, it's just better for myself not to mix too much. Gio has exhibited in the gallery before.
But it's not like every exhibit. You know what I mean?
No. It's not like every exhibit. It's only like when there's a part of... This is a good example, because even if Gio had nothing to do with Tarzeer Pictures, and thank God that is not the case.
Right.
But even if he did not have anything to do with it, his work would be perfect. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I'm actually surprised you guys haven't done one of like basically some sort of like self-identity of who you guys are, right?
That might happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be cool. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you about two more things.
Yes,
basically concerning Tarsier. Like,
yes.
Obviously we talked about it a little earlier, but like the corporate versus the exhibits, and because the exhibits seem to be more like this is what I want.
Yeah,
right?
and also that's where we feel like that we can make a little bit of a contribution.
Yeah,
more so.
And then another thing I wanted to know is, do you actually like, are you profitable through exhibits?
Not in like the necessarily that way.
Right.
No, it's not. That's why
it's
another
not
reason,
like monetary wise, like,
dude, it's
maybe exposure.
It's not like we're rolling in it from selling photography. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's why. Luckily, we have the other stuff that we do. So.
And that's part of that should be like a motivator for you when you're like, you feel like it's not artistic enough, right?
Yeah, and that I do feel like that sometimes.
Right?
But at the end of the day, you have to be like, we're gonna do this and this and this so that we can have a show that's like this.
Yeah, and obviously do the best you can in all of it so that you can exist forever and do what you love, right?
Yeah, and dude, it's like each thing you really learn a lot, and you don't even know what you're going to learn before anything.
Yeah.
Especially when you're collaborating with people who are working in fields that are completely different from ours, you know.
Right.
And I forget where I heard it recently, but like, oh yeah, I was watching a photographer speaking, and they were saying that like, for you guys, for the photographers, for the creatives or whatever, that's like your everyday existence. It's like thinking about this stuff and making this stuff. For the people you're doing it for, it's never happened in their lives. The people who are
Yeah.
in it, like we're interviewing someone who works at a grocery store. They've never, you know, they're not thinking every single day of their lives about content.
Yeah.
You know, so interacting with those people, it's very fulfilling.
Right.
It's very fulfilling. So it's not necessarily as separate as it might look from the outside.
Right.
But it is still, the fulfillment is very different. The fulfillment is very different.
Okay. Well, that's good that you're able to see like the satisfaction in both sides. of
People
it,
have to
right?
remind me every day. Every day.
Well, you definitely have good people around you. What's
100%.
next? What's next for you and Tarsier?
I really want to focus again on doing some of my own like personal projects.
Like the karaoke thing.
The karaoke thing. I was hoping that was going to be further along at this point in the year. But you know, things come up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in the coming year, I really want to like work to take things to the next level.
Right,
In terms of my
develop your own
my
stuff.
own work.
That's cool. And for Tarsier?
And for Tarzier, we're now hoping to do, at least on the video side, more narrative stuff, more short films,
Nice.
things that we're not being engaged by third parties to do.
Right.
Whether that's like a documentary or music videos, or that's really, I really want to do some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Get that delicious cinematic practice fun in there. Because have to walk the walk, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, it's in the beginning, it's what you wanted, right?
Exactly,
So
yeah.
you gotta come back to it now that your head is probably a little above water and you can.
Yeah, and now
right,
I think
you got something going on already.
yeah. So I think that's basically just more personal stories, exploring that part more next year.
That's great,
or
dude.
in the coming months.
I look forward to seeing that.
Thanks.
So
man.
to wrap this up, I wanted to do a quick rapid fire with you.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we're on Hot Ones. This camera.
Yeah.
What you got going on?
I wish. God, that's the goal, dude. Actually, this scene and then boom, boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Some
the
over
goal
the shoulders up in here.
eventually.
Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. Get a drone shot in here.
All right, so let's start. What's your favorite movie of all time?
I like Rosemary's Baby.
Okay, and that's by who?
Roman Polanski, very problematic figure, but I just love that movie so much.
All right, I gotta check that out. I've
Yeah,
never seen it.
Rosemary's
How
Baby.
about favorite TV show?
I like Freaks and Geeks and Survivor. I just watched Survivor this afternoon.
Nice. Favorite local artist?
Dex Fernandez.
Your go-to drink?
Encanto.
How do you relieve stress? I like that plug.
How do I relieve stress?
Yeah.
Fooling around on GarageBand.
Yeah. Yo, you should keep doing that.
Clam chowder. I love clam chowder.
Last song you listened to?
Jet lag. A$AP Ferg.
Nice. last book you read?
I'm reading Trick Mirror now by Gia Tolentino. Very good. Highly
Really?
recommending. Yeah, highly recommended.
Is that local?
She's a Filipina American writer.
Interesting.
She doesn't really talk about that so
Side,
much,
yeah.
but it's very smart. She's very witty.
Nice. Your favorite exhibit or event you've ever done?
Oh. I'm just gonna say the last one. Record.
Record. What was
Yeah.
that about?
That was the Pride one. That was the Pride
okay.
event, yeah.
Nice.
I'd say no disrespect to anybody we worked with for the other ones, but I think that was when we just were more in the flow of
Right.
what we were doing.
You're hitting your stride, probably.
I don't know about that, but just it felt just a little bit like less like frantic in the
Okay.
preparation.
Okay.
A little less.
That's cool. What are you insecure about?
Insecure. How much of a shit I should not or should give about things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The balancing act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everyone struggles with that, man.
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear?
My biggest physical fear is snakes. My biggest fear in,
Everything.
existentially
Yeah.
is like, I guess, regret.
Okay.
That's my biggest fear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't want to regret anything, basically.
I don't want to regret anything too much.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair because you're always gonna regret something. Right?
Inevitably,
Like,
I guess.
even like on a very surface level, I regret not ordering the burger or something, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
do you have an idol right now?
Idol right now. Not really. I do really appreciate people who are good at many things or who try to do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, I was really into this Danish artist, Oliver Eliasson. He actually has a documentary now on Netflix that came out.
Okay.
I'd been a big admirer of him at the moment.
Nice. And he does a lot of different things.
A lot of different things, and even like most of the local artists that I really gravitate towards, just people who think less about the medium, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to be necessarily purists or.
No. People who do music, people who do this and
Yeah.
that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think that's like, that's like really the life.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
really sounds like the life.
Yeah, I agree, man. And then, what's the best part of your job?
The working with the people that I work with.
And the worst?
My hissy fits. And getting in, what Dinesh calls it, a tizzy fest. He calls it a tizzy fest. I have a bad habit of doing that stuff.
Right.
I mean, not like scary, but the other day, like I ripped there was a box in the office full of Welch fruit snacks,
Uh-huh.
and I tore it in half.
What?
Yeah, like really, really.
But I'm sure the
bad
people
things
you
like
work
that.
with are used to that type of thing with you, no?
I know, but it's still such inexcusable.
Yeah, that's true, that's
behavior.
true,
It's
that's
really
true.
not cool.
I guess, we all have something we got to work on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then, who's someone we should follow on Instagram?
Who's someone you should follow on Instagram? I recently started following this thing. It's called engineering something. God, what is it called? It's basically a thing about like factories, like shots of factories and things, like stuff like that on Instagram. I don't want to say or favor any artist, Instagram or photographer,
course,
so I'll say that. Our art handler is really hilarious as well. On
Okay.
Instagram.
And then, who's someone we should unfollow?
Me. Who's someone you should unfollow?
Yeah.
Oh God, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
No, I'm just trying to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you so much,
That was
guys. This
great
is
fun,
I
dude.
hope I made sense.
Yeah.
And
That was really interesting, dude.
Thank
I
you
thought
you so much.
That
Thank
went
you.
really well. All right.
Is it
cool.
over?
Yeah, we're good.
I had a great time.